Hey, welcome to Android Dialogues, where we have bite-sized conversations with people in the Android community. I'm Huyen and I'm speaking with
Emma Guy.
Emma, where are you based and how'd you get started in Android?
So I am based in London, and I got started in Android about 3 years ago. I had an Android phone and was a developer in enterprise world of C# and C++. And I just started tinkering around with it, essentially. Like, the first thing I wrote was a game, and then I started, like, moving into apps and just trying stuff out, really.
So we were kind of talking a little bit before, and I think we actually also have similar backgrounds in that we both worked agency kind of contracting before, but now we both work in startup. And I feel like a subject that comes up a lot when you work agency contracting is when you come to a project and there's legacy code. And so I was going to ask Emma today about kind of your experiences with legacy code and how to kind of deal with that. Like, I mean, because I feel like even like at startups, like small contracts, big contracts, it happens.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, so all my Android experience up until like the last couple of months has been purely agency work. So my only like previous product experience back then has been like me much more junior as a developer. So now that I'm like in product land again, I'm starting to think about, well, you know, the code is, I feel like, much more ownership towards it because it's going to be like a much more long-term thing. So and we're quite a new team actually. So, you know, agreeing on like code standards and what we like and what we don't like is really important. I think communicating about like what is good for you and what is not good for you is really important, because otherwise you open a pull request and you're like, yeah, this is what I want, and they're like, really?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So for you, like in your experience, what do you think is like kind of like the first steps to, I guess, when you're coming into like some existing code? What are some good first steps? So you mentioned like code styles and like setting, I guess, standards.
Yeah, some sort of, whether you want to use Checkstyle or whether you want to use some sort of automated tools for those kind of things, or whether you just want to kind of go by some conventions that you preset, or maybe start with like the Java or Google like standards and then, kind of build from there based on personal preferences. And I guess you also need to decide what you can live with and what you can't live with. I think there's some things that some people just totally hate. Like, I personally like annotations on the same line. But I know this is controversial. It's very controversial. But if a code base is already not with that, then I can live without that. It's annoying, but you get used to it, I guess.
How much of that stuff do you think comes up like kind of on the fly with like PRs? Like, I mean, I suppose it's kind of difficult to enumerate every single thing that you want to do and you don't want to do, but it seems like a lot of it would come up like, oh, how interesting, you're putting all the annotations on one line.
Yeah.
I don't. So, and then, like, how do you think, like,
I guess the code style, like, you should probably pre-agree when somebody joins the team, like, we do it like this right now, can you live with all of these things, and then agree and commit the style to your source control so that you can all use the same import settings, and so basically if you format a file, then nothing should change apart from what you've just changed, because if it changes based on because somebody else hasn't formatted the file, it's just horrible and it's really noisy in pull request time, and
that's the thing.
Painful.
Yeah, I feel like that comes up a lot because like you want, especially when you're coming into a legacy code base, you want everything to be beautiful and shiny once you get there. You want to polish everything, but obviously, like you were saying, just having a commit that just is like white space or moving things around does, as you said, makes things noisy. So what do you think is a good strategy for trying to polish up those kind of things, like more like along the lines of cleanliness and something looking nice? How do you balance that with, we have to actually get things done and have like a proper kind of like review process?
I think it's difficult. I think on some level, like if your code is like absolutely perfect and beautiful, then probably you're not shipping enough. But then and on the other side, like if you can't move fast at all because your code is like all legacy and all like cruft, and you all like don't really have confidence in making changes to it, then it's very difficult to kind of move forwards with that. So I think generally, I think a rule that I like try and have is leave it something better than what you found it. But probably don't go so far as to change everything in a change which is totally unrelated. So if you see something that you know is going to be an area which is going to change soon, then maybe make a card or ticket or whatever, and then you can approach it before you then come to do the next thing, so it's like a known thing. And then for smaller things, I guess you can just kind of do it on the fly, and that includes like library updating and stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Like for for instance, at the minute, like we are a couple versions behind on Butterknife, and the API change. It seems really stupid, but it's like a really convenient library, and like the API has changed, so now it's breaking. I really want to update it because the method count goes down, but like I just haven't managed to find the time to be able to do something like that. So it's something like that. I think like libraries are a little bit harder because it works at the moment, but you need to make a commitment to like updating to be latest and greatest. And,
that's a really good point. And I went through that as well. Like, so like the annotation changed from like bind to bind view. And it's not just like simple, like, oh, I just increment the number in my Gradle file. It's like, I have to go through several files and change all the annotations to get it to the file. So it's interesting. So it seems like there's a lot of discretion and kind of making value judgments on what is, it seems like, very, very much like there's no hard rule. It's just more like what makes sense. So with legacy code, I think one of the challenges I know that I've had on projects in the past is how do we, because presumably when you get there, it's working to some degree, more or less, hopefully. But, you're probably trying to balance like new features that, probably someone's demanding that you add a new cool thing. And probably the developer that you are probably would want to be like, no, but I want to fix all these things and make it beautiful and perfect. How do you balance, refactoring old code with new features? Is it something that, do you feel like you always have to prioritize new features, or do you think that there's a way to kind of balance, bringing things that were not so good up with getting new code in there?
I think it mostly depends on what the new feature is touching and, how bad some parts of it are. Because if you like somebody wrote something really horrible a long time ago, which works and is set up and you never go near, then there's less value in changing that than there is in, say, doing something which you see like day to day and is like constantly in the way. Or is like, taking up unnecessary APK, so bloating the size of the APK or something like that. So I think it really depends. Again, there's no hard rule.
No hard fast rule. So, but I think like it's good to kind of work from experience. It sounds like, and just try to figure out. So say something, maybe kind of like. Have you ever had to do something like change something really integral or something really basic, like the database or something like an architecture? Have you ever kind of done any of those kind of situations?
So we have, I've recently been on a project where we changed the dependency injection framework entirely, and it's not something you can, just make a pull request and do, because, well, unless everybody else is, or your other developers are on holiday and there's like really nothing else changing, then, too many other changes are happening. You're just going to have, merge hell when you eventually reintegrate that. So it's probably like wise to do a little bit at a time and have like side by side both frameworks for a little time, which in some ways sounds horrible, but I think it's probably better than just trying to do it in like one big go. I think there are cases where you can do stuff in one big go, like if you want to remove a smaller library which is in like one particular part of your app, then go for it. But like something that's really everywhere, then it's much harder.
Wow, that's amazing! Switching out the entire dependency injection framework. That's pretty impressive. So if you're thinking about changing something large like that, as Emma says, it's okay to have both coexisting until you decide to evict the old one. So it's really cool. Do you find any like specific challenges like with different types of code? Say, do you find that maybe legacy UI code or legacy architecture code or legacy, say, like data code do you find any of them particularly challenging to deal with?
I would say not specifically, but probably if you're it's probably with UI code, it's probably if you're bumping up the SDK level over time, then probably it's easier to forget that you had to do this hack or this thing to make it backwards compatible, and at some point you'll be able to delete that, which will be glorious. But you have to also remember to actually do it.
Yeah, always love to bump up that SDK. One day we'll be on 21 plus and.
Oh, this is 21.
21 plus. Oh, it is. Oh my gosh, so lucky. Oh man, waiting for the day. All that lovely like. Was that Marshmallow or Lollipop? No, Kit Kat was 19, Lollipop was 21.
Yeah, Lollipop. But all the apps I've done previously have been like 14 or 16 or 15.
Oh my gosh, the last project on we were like down to 10, and that was some time ago. But man, I was so happy. We're on 19 on my current gig, so it's just worlds of difference.
Yeah. And
kind of interesting. The problem with legacy code feels like it's just compounded by the fact that we deal with compatibility issues on Android.
Yeah, actually we are currently, so we're 21, but we actually use AppCompat as well, and I haven't really had time to look into whether we, use it enough or like how much we use it or everywhere we use it, because probably we could get away with not needing it in a lot of places, but maybe we would also save really a lot of methods if we didn't have it incorporated. So it's like it's difficult. Actually, not long after I joined, I wrote like a little script to upload our APK size and method count to like a graphing website, so that we can see like a trend over time, which is really handy. I just wanted to get like a handle on like what it is now, and like just see like where it creeps. If it creeps up gradually, then I would like to be able to monitor it a bit.
Oh, that's a really cool idea. I like that, especially if you try to integrate new things like say constraint layout or some other like like library component. You can kind of see, or if you want to switch, like you said, the DI frameworks or any other kind of library you're switching to see the actual impact. That's a really cool idea. I like that.
I think then if you delete something, which actually has yet to happen, but I want to delete something and then to see some plummet. It could be really satisfying.
Those are always the best. I feel like I know a lot of people who their favorite commits are commits where you just see a bunch of deletion. Like it's all red on GitHub. Like that's an awesome commit where we can, well, as long as it still compiles, then it's like the best commit to delete old code. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Emma. Those sound like a lot of really great kind of ideas for handling legacy code. Because I know, like, again, if you work long enough, you probably will have to deal with someone's legacy code. Might be yours, might be somebody else's. So, but thank you so much for chatting with us today. So if people wanted to find you on the internet, where can they do that?
Probably best is Twitter. My handle is EmmaGuy.
That's very easy to remember.
Indeed.
So thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you.
And thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.